Hello everyone, we are the Group 7 and these are the reporters, Miss Janet Olawan, Lajeline S. Coizon, Mila C. Kadotdot, Regine Dakan, and yours truly, Rosa Marie Pamatian. And we will be reporting about Philippine indigenous customary laws, livelihood, and technology. And I'll be the one to give the first report. Philippine indigenous customary laws, livelihood, and technology. The Philippines is home to diverse indigenous communities with distinct cultural heritage, shaped by tradition, resilience, and adaptation. Their unique customary laws, livelihoods, and technologies reflect their connection to land, ancestors, and collective identity, offering insights into sustainable living and preserving indigenous knowledge and rights. Alright, here's a question. Why do we need to study indigenous customary laws, livelihood, and technology? Bakit kailangan pa itong pag-aralan? Okay? Studying indigenous customary laws, livelihood, and technology promotes understanding and recognition of indigenous peoples' rights and cultural heritage. Ibig sabihin, by studying, we may able to promote the tradition of the indigenous, the heritage, their rights, no? We may able to inform people, we may able to promote them, okay? So, it helps combat doubts and lack of understanding, supporting self-determination and sustainable development while preserving cultural diversity and promoting national goals. Recognition is the key, no, to preserve indigenous culture. Now, let's go to the definition of indigenous customary laws. All right. Indigenous customary laws, these are unwritten rules and practices traditionally recognized and observed by respective indigenous cultural communities or ICCs, and indigenous people or IPs, IPs, which play a crucial role in their governance and social structure. Primarily, these laws governed by the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act or tinatawag siyang IPRA. Indigenous customary laws refer to the traditional laws and practices of indigenous people, often passed down through generation. Pinapasa nila sa mga generations. And these laws govern various aspects, no? like land ownership and use, mga lupa, no? Resource management, like spiritual practices, no? Like social relationships, conflict resolution. Okay? Now let's go to the importance of the customary laws in the Philippine or in Philippine culture. How important, no? Indigenous customary laws play significant role in Philippine culture, particularly in preserving the traditions, values, and identities of indigenous community. So, tingnan natin. Ano-ano pa yung mga importance? Number 1, preservation of cultural heritage. No? Indigenous customary laws help preserve the cultural heritage and traditions of indigenous communities, passing them down to the future generations. So, gina-preserve or pinipreserve niya ng customary laws ang mga traditions, mga cultural heritages. Okay? Number 2, another importance, community cohesion. When we say community cohesion, customary laws promote community cohesion and social harmony by providing a shared understanding of norms, values, and even expectations. Alright? That's number 2. Number 3, importance, environmental stewardship. Okay? Many indigenous customary laws emphasize environmental stewardship and sustainable use of natural resources, contributing to the preservation of biodiversity and ecosystem. All right, that's another importance, environmental stewardship. Number 4, by having these customary laws, they may able to have conflict resolution. All right, customary laws provide a framework for conflict resolution, no? Nagsosolve ng mga conflict and peace building, often emphasizing restorative justice and reconciliation. So, ito ay tumutulong na magsosolve ng mga conflict sa mga ng mga indigenous people. Okay? Another importance, cultural identity. Alright? Indigenous customary laws are integral part of the cultural identity of indigenous community. It reflects their unique histories, values, and experiences. Another importance, autonomy and self-governance. Ang customary laws enable indigenous communities to exercise autonomy and self-governance, making decisions that affect their lives and community. So, ito yung guide nila. Pwede silang maging self-governance. Sila-sila lang. Alright? Number 7, last one. Another importance of indigenous customary laws, it promotes social justice. Indigenous customary laws often promote social justice and equity, protecting the rights and interests of the community members, the indigenous people. Alright? So, by recognizing and respecting indigenous customary laws, the Philippines can promote cultural diversity, social justice, and social and sustainable development. Those are the importance of the Philippine indigenous customary laws in Philippine culture. Now, let's listen to the next reporter, Ms. Logilin S. Quezon. She will be reporting about example of indigenous customary laws, and thank you for listening.
So good day everyone. My name is Logilin Sinoy-Pisan from Davao Cluster and I'm from the group 7. Our topic is all about the Philippine indigenous customary laws. So indigenous customary laws. We all know the definition of the customary law. So it is a set of custom practices and beliefs that are accepted as obligatory rules of conduct by indigenous peoples and local communities. So I have here the examples of the customary laws. So let's start from the Luzon area. One was the Budong, so Kalinga Peace Pact, a traditional peace pact system among the Kalinga people. The second one was the Pangayaw, sa Ifugao Communal Works, a system for governing agriculture practices and communal works among the Ifugao people. So number 3, this is the Daoist, Kankanya A inheritance. So governs inheritance and property rights among the Kankanya A people. So the fourth one was the Lakay, the Igorot leadership, a system of leadership and decision making among the Igorot peoples. So number 5 was the Obaya, sa Dabalo-i hand ownership, that regulates in land ownership and use among the Ibalao people. From the Visayas. First was a Dugay, so anti-conflict resolution, a traditional conflict resolution system among the anti-peoples. Second one was the Panawag, the Solobnon land use, so govern land use and resources management among the Solobnon people. So the third one was the Bayaw, Waray social norms, So regulates social behavior and community norms among the Waray people. So the fourth one was the Hinabang, the Cebuano Mutual Health. So emphasizes mutual help and cooperation among the Cebuano people. So the fifth one was the Sugal, indigenous game. So regulates traditional games and recreation activities among indigenous group in Visayas. So, in the Mindanao, first one was Sulu Sultanate's Adat's Law. So, this governed the Tausug people covering aspects like marriage, inheritance, and conflict relations. So, number second was the Maranao's Adat Laws. So, regulates the Maranao people covering aspects like family, property, and community relationships. The third one was Maguindanao Sultanic System, a system of governance and leadership among the Maguindanao peoples. So fourth one was the Tiboli Olaring. So it regulates social behavior, community norms among the Tiboli people. So fifth one was the Mandayas Banwa. So govern land ownership and use among the Mandaya people. So the question is, how do indigenous customary laws influence and conflict relationship and peace building in indigenous communities? Ways they influence these processes. Restoration justice. So this one is focused on leading indigenous customary laws, often prioritize healing and restoration over punishment, aiming to repair relationship and address the root cause of conflict. Second one was the community involvement. Customary laws involves the community in conflict resolution, promoting collective decision making and consensus built. The traditional mediation. Respect leaders. The indigenous customary laws often rely on the respective community leaders, such as leader or spiritual leaders, to mediate conflict and facilitate dialogue. So the second one is the cultural context. Customary laws takes it into account of cultural context and nouns of the conflicts, allowing the more effective and cultural sensitive relationship and peace building. So, preventing escalation, indigenous customary laws can help previous conflicts from escalating by addressing issues early and promoting the dialogue. Second one was the building trust. Customary laws can foster trust and cooperate among community members, contributing to more effective peace building and conflict resolution.
Hello. I'm going to report the sources of these laws, sources of customary laws. Number one, oral traditions, like storytelling. Okay, when we say storytelling, indigenous communities pass down stories, legends, and myths that contain moral lessons, historical events, and cultural values. So that's storytelling. Another one, oral traditions, songs and chants. Traditional songs and chants often contain lyrics that reflect indigenous laws, customs, and practices. Another tradition of oral tradition, ritual ceremonies. Rituals and ceremonies are integral part of indigenous cultures, and they often involve the recitation of stories, myths, and legends that contain customary laws. Another sources of these laws is the customary practice. What is this customary practice? First is the collective experiences. The indigenous communities have accumulated knowledge and wisdom over generations, which is reflected in their customary laws. Another one, wisdom of elders. Elders play a significant role in indigenous communities. and their wisdom and experience are often sought in matters of customary laws. Right? Their wisdom of the elders. And another one, intergenerational transmission. It is the ancestral knowledge is passed down from one generation to the next, ensuring the continuity of customary laws and practices. That is intergenerational transmission. Another sources of laws is ancestral knowledge. First is long-standing practices. Indigenous communities have developed customer practice over time, which are often codified in their laws and traditions. All right. Another one, customary norms. Customary practices reflect norms and values of indigenous communities, which are often distinct from those of mainstream social society. Another one, adaptation and evolution. Alright, customary practices can evolve over time, adapting to changes in circumstances and challenges. Alright, that's adaptation and evolution. Another sources of laws is this spiritual beliefs. First is indigenous spirituality. Indigenous communities have their own unique spiritual beliefs and cosmologies, which often influence their customary laws and practices. Alright, another, connection to nature. Many indigenous communities believe in a strong connection between humans and nature, which is reflected in their customary laws and practices. Another one is spiritual leaders. Spiritual leaders often play a significant role in indigenous communities, providing guidance and wisdom on matters of customary laws. Alright? And another source of these laws, community consensus. First is community discussions. Indigenous community often engage in discussion and debates to reach a consensus on matters of customary law. Another one, collective decision making. Ang customary laws are often developed and defined through collective decision making, processing involving community members and leaders. And another one, respect for tradition. Community consensus is often guided a respect for tradition and a commitment to preserving cultural heritage. All right, that's for community consensus. Source. According to Lynch in 1983, he observed that millions of Filipinos are still guided by indigenous community laws. According to Lynch in 1983, he observed that millions of Filipinos are still guided by indigenous customary laws, holds true to varying degrees today. And according also to Cole 1956, they link to the folk beliefs, ritual myths, and other aspects of identification of the eyepiece. According to Brett 1984, Kissing 1974, these traditional laws also guide their relation with other groups, mainly in the maintenance of peace, engagement in warfare, and establishment of peace pacts. Indigenous laws are also the model for kinship ties, genealogies, marriage practices, and other contractual obligations. According to Lambrecht, 1968. According to Makin 2015 and Rolla 2011, they account for the approved means of extraction of resources from the ancestral domain. Indigenous peoples' customary laws and governance systems are challenged by external influences and modernization. According to Madrigal Lorente 1984, and Tumakin 2015. Despite these laws remain essential for self-determination, according to Malintas 2015 and Lynch 1983. Traditional leaders such as Dato or Dakula Tumakin in 2015 and councils of elders like the Lalakay Mulintas 2015 govern communities and conserve customary laws. These systems are vital to indigenous identity and autonomy. And that's my report. Let's proceed to the next reporter.
I'm Mila Kadot, Davao Cluster, second year student, major in English. My topic for today is about the livelihood and technology. Indigenous peoples groups in the Philippines are dependent on the land, rivers, and the sea as primary sources of their livelihood. The extraction of resources and livelihood from the land and water are primarily influenced by the customary beliefs and practices. Most IP groups in the Philippines consider their land to be communal property since 1915. However, at present, some groups also practice both communal and private ownership of the land. Mulintas in 2015 identifies the different categories of land used among the Cordillera people, like Moyong, which is a privately owned woodlot that provides firewood, timber, and farm lots is managed by a single family. Tayan refers to a corporate land management system where a clan manages forested land for resources like timber and hunting. The Lapat, a section of a forest closed for a specific period of time due to certain cultural and spiritual beliefs. All human activities are forbidden in this area. Thus, it allows a certain period of time for the rejuvenation of biodiversity. Another is the Oma. Oma are the Sweden farms where IPs plant one of their staple foods, kamuti. IP groups in the Philippines practices subsistence farming, with some still using shifting, cultivating. They cultivate staple foods and employ sustainable technologies like multiple cropping and composting, while also adopting cash crops for livelihood. The agriculture is shifting cultivation. Many indigenous communities practices traditional farming methods such as shifting cultivation or kaingin, where they clear a piece of land, farm it for a few years, and then move to a new area. Another is rice farming. Some indigenous communities like the Ifugao people are known for their expertise in rice farming and have developed sophisticated irrigation system. Another is the root crop farming. Indigenous communities in mountainous regions may grow root crops like kamutis with potato and obe and other purple yam. In fishing, there is coastal fishing. Coastal indigenous communities like the Bajau people engage in fishing and other aquatic activities using traditional fishing methods and boats. River fishing. Indigenous community living near rivers may fish for freshwater fish and other aquatic resources. Another is hunting. Hunting, the wild game hunting. Some indigenous communities like Agta and Luzon hunt wild game like deer, wild boar, and birds for food and other essential resources. Next is traditional hunting methods. Communities may use traditional hunting methods such as spears, bows, traps to hunt wild game. Next is from craftsmanship. First is weaving. Indigenous communities like the Blaan and South Cotabato and Sarangani are known for their traditional textiles which are woven using intricate designs and patterns. Wood carving. They develop expertise in wood carving, creating intricate designs and patterns on wooden products. Next is pottery. They create traditional pottery using techniques passed down through generations. Next is in livestock raising. One of them are the cattle raising. Indigenous communities raise cattle, carabao or goats for meat, milk, and other essential resources. Next is traditional livestock management. Communities like Evatan people in Batanes Islands, Luzon use traditional livestock management practices such as rotational grazing to maintain the health and productivity of their livestock. The last one is foraging. Foraging is gathering forest products. Indigenous communities like Manubo and Mindanao and Visayas people gathered forest products like fruits, nuts, and medicinal plants for subsistence and trade. Another is wild foods. They forage for wild foods like honey, mushrooms, and other edible plants. That's all for the livelihood practices of indigenous communities and this topic for livelihood and technology. Thank you and shalom.
My name is Janet Lawan and this is my topic, technology. Filipino indigenous technologies encompass a wide range of traditional knowledge, skills, and practices that have been passed down through generations of indigenous peoples in the Philippines. These technologies are deeply rooted in their cultural heritage and way of life and are often closely tied to their natural environment. Example of Filipino indigenous technologies. Agriculture. Indigenous communities have developed sophisticated farming techniques such as terracing and crop rotation to cultivate crops like rice, corn, and root crops. Number 1. Fishing. Number 2. Fishing. Coastal indigenous communities have developed traditional fishing techniques such as net fishing and hook and line fishing to catch fish on other seafood. Number 3. Weaving. They are known for their expertise in weaving using traditional looms and techniques to create beautiful textile like the Tibulis Tinalak fabric. Number 4. Wood carving. Indigenous communities have developed expertise in wood carving, creating intricate designs and patterns on wooden objects like masks, figurines, and decorative items. Number 5. Metalwork. Some indigenous communities like the Maranao people are known for their expertise in metalwork, creating intricate designs and patterns on metal objects like brassware and silver jewelry. Number 6. Medicine. Indigenous communities have developed traditional medicine practices using natural remedies and spiritual healing techniques to treat various ailments. Number 7. Shelter. Indigenous communities have developed traditional housing techniques using local materials like wood, bamboo, and nuts to build houses that are adapted to their environment. Characteristic of Filipino indigenous technologies. sustainability. Indigenous technologies are often more sustainable and environmentally friendly than modern alternatives. Number 2. Self-sufficiency. Indigenous technologies enable indigenous communities to be sufficient and rely less on external resources. Number 3. Cultural significance. Indigenous technologies are deeply rooted in the cultural heritage and way of life of indigenous communities. Number 4. Community-based. Indigenous technologies are often developed and shared with the community, promoting social cohesion and collective knowledge. Importance of preserving Filipino indigenous technologies. Number 1. Cultural preservation. Preserving indigenous technologies helps to maintain cultural heritage and promote cultural diversity. Number 2. Sustainable development. Indigenous technologies can provide sustainable solutions to environmental and economic challenges. Number 3. Community empowerment. Preserving indigenous technologies can empower indigenous communities to take control of their own development and decision-making processes. Adaptation to modern technology. The preservation of indigenous culture and technology is critical amidst rapid modernization initiatives aimed at promoting traditional practices. Education and community engagement can help safeguard cultural heritage while integrating sustainable technological advancement that enhance daily life. Indigenous communities are embracing modern technology to enhance their livelihoods while preserving their cultural heritage. By integrating tools like smartphones, solar panels, and precision agriculture, they're improving connectivity, education, and access to markets. This blend of tradition and technology enables them to thrive in a rapidly changing world while maintaining the unique cultural identities and strong connection to their ancestral lands. That's all. Thank you.
Here's the conclusion of our report. Indigenous customary laws, livelihood, and technologies are vital to Philippine cultural heritage. By embracing tradition and modernity, indigenous communities can thrive while preserving their unique identities, promoting self-determination, and contributing to sustainable development, ultimately enriching the country's diverse cultural landscape. And yun ang report namin. Thank you very much for watching and listening.